Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Georgiman and I'm your friendly neighborhood anime and manga fan. I love all things anime and all things manga, and I'm here today to talk about Chainsaw Man chapter 124. So, what did I think about this week's chapter? I think this chapter was very fascinating in many ways, as well as I think this chapter is very essential in expanding in Yoru and Asa's relationship as a whole, because up to this point we kind of see them have a very, mixed bag kind of a relationship, in the sense of, Yoru's usually the one, taking control at her own volition and, kind of screwing things up for Asa, and Asa kind of just being, the pretty much the one that has to suffer through all of Yoru's actions. But in this chapter, we actually see the two of them, open up to each other in a sense, and especially Asa. We see a lot of, insight of Asa and her psyche, as well as, her inner thoughts and how she really feels about Yoru being inside of her. Now, before we get into this week's chapter, I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you guys can be up to date with all Chainsaw Man anime and manga content in the near future. It really helps me out a lot, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe. So if you guys could, thank you so much for subscribing. Now, let's get into this week's chapter. Now, this week's chapter starts off where we left off last time, which is pretty much Asa being lifted up by the Falling Devil, and she's holding for dear life because the Falling Devil's sucking everybody up, and it seems like these doors you get sucked in is hell. So Asa, she's holding for dear life, and Yoru's just like, dude, you need to snap out of this. Like, Asa, start freaking out. Like, listen to me. You need to get a grip. Like, right now you're in fear. That's why, and that's how devils work. The more scared you are of them, the more powerful they enhance themselves. So Yoru was just like, okay, snap out of it, and Asa's just freaking out, and eventually she's being pulled, and she lets go of the bar, and that she's being lifted up, and Asa and Yoru at the same time, they just kind of like say nail knife, and you see one of Asa's nails turn into a knife, because of their weapon, the Yoru's power. And you see that that's enough for Asa to kind of snap back and just be dropped to the floor, because she was in so much pain that she wasn't really in fear of the Falling Devil at that point. So now Yoru takes over the body, and she's telling Asa like, okay, listen, you're way too emotional right now. I don't know what's gotten into you, but I'll take it from here, because this devil is insane. This devil's too powerful. And you see a very fascinating thing, which is Yoru starts like pretty much like analyzing the devil, being like, this doesn't make any sense. The Falling Devil, why would it be so powerful? And then she starts clicking everything together. It's like, okay, following the a traumatic flashback / gravity being pulled down, and then she starts saying like the moon and all these things, like suicide, and it's all these things that are regarding falling. And then Yoru starts realizing like, oh my goodness, like this devil is much more of a primordial fear than I thought, because there's so many elements of when somebody would fall, you would be afraid of. So no wonder why this devil is so powerful. And following that, we see that Yoru eventually cuts Asa's hand, because it's like, okay, I need to make sure that you're focusing on the pain, because the pain is what makes us be somewhat of a stable mindset, so we don't get dragged by the fear of the Falling Devil. Now, while that happens, like Yoru's like, okay, this is gonna work, we should be fine, because now just focus on the pain, Asa. And Asa's like, oh my god, like because it hurts her hand. She's like, oh, he's like, and then Yoru's like, listen, Asa, just focus on the pain, that's all you need. And then the next thing you know is Asa's being lifted up in the air, and she gets like slammed towards a building. And what you see Yoru is being like, dude, you need to stop freaking out. Like, like, let me take over your body, and so you don't just let me take over from here, because you're freaking out way too much. You're way too emotional right now. So just trust me, Asa. Why can't you just trust me? I don't see what the big deal is. And then Asa just snaps back at Yoru and says like, trust you? Are you kidding me? You just caught my hand. How am I supposed to trust you? And Yoru was like, I did that because you were scared. And Asa's like, you caught my hand, dude. Like and it's understandable. Like, dude, what are you talking about? You just harmed me. And now, like, this one relationship with the two of them has been a one-sided affair so far, because Yoru's just utilizing Asa at any moment she can do, because we know what Yoru's whole motive is. She took over Asa's body so she can kill the Chainsaw Man and regain her power. So why not? Because right now she's nerfed and what we see is that they have a whole back and forward where pretty much Asa is just telling like Yoru, like, dude, you suck. Like, you're always taking over my body, like, when I don't want you to, and you're always saying scary stuff. Like, you're just a terrible person. Like, she just like goes off on Yoru, and you know what? Good for you, sis. You deserve that. You've been through so much because of this, devil. So obviously you need to, unravel everything that's been holding inside of you, because this is, Yoru has done a lot of stuff throughout the series that is just like very questionable and has gotten Asa in a lot of trouble. So I'm glad that she snapped back at Yoru, and Yoru, she took it. She was just like, okay, like, well, listen, like, I don't understand. We gotta get along together. I don't see what the big deal is. Why are you so afraid of me? Like, why are you so afraid right now? You're very emotional right now. And Asa's like, what you see is, like, my biggest fear is not that you take over my body or whatever. And my biggest fear is the fact that, like, all these people, like, building relationships. I suck. Like, I know I suck, okay? I hate the fact that I'm afraid of building relationships with people, because I'm always scared that these relationships will end and I'll be utterly alone at the end. Like, and we got a little glimpse of that towards, when she was talking to Denji, and, her emotions towards him, and how she felt devastated once, she built this relationship with him, and then it just went away. Like, she thinks that he stood her up, but obviously he didn't, but that's what she thinks. So, and as well as Yuko, she showed up in her life. She was her best friend, and she disappeared. And we know she's dead, but she obviously doesn't. But she disappeared of her life. So, Asa, she does make a good point in the sense that why she would be so afraid of this, because she is afraid of building connections with people, because she's been hurt many times. And I think we all relate to that, because I know that, for certain people, we are very sheltered, and we think, within ourselves that if we try to make a commitment in going outside and branching to people and building friendships, that these friendships might not last, and we're afraid that while after the friendships are done, or relationships or marriages or whatever it is, that at the end of the day you'll be utterly alone. And I think that was a very hard-hitting point that Fujimoto hit in this chapter. And I think there was phenomenal writing by him, because we all can relate to that. I think we all been at one point in our lives where we just feel utterly like sad and depressed about the fact that we feel like no one will be, we're gonna be alone and nobody will be with us. And I think Asa perfectly captured that feeling in this chapter, and we saw a lot of that from her. And it was great because we got to see Asa open up to Yoru, and that's something that Yoru needed to hear as well, because like they both share the same body, so like they both should be knowing a little bit about each other. And I think it was just great. And I just wish I could go, give Asa a big hug and tell her it's okay, because she is, very down bad right now, in the sense of her mental state is down, and she's, she's sad and alone, and, she really needs a buddy right now, a friend. And I hope in the future we get to see Denji and her reconnect, because I think that's, she needs that in her life. And I think Denji also needs Asa in his life, for the two of them to be happy, because I think the two of them will be very happy together. But knowing Fujimoto, he'll throw that away and make us suffer, because he's a mad lad and he's a genius, and I hate and love him for it. But continuing with that, we see pretty much after that we catch up with what the Falling Devil is. And what the Falling Devil is doing is pretty much, you see all these corpses of all these devil hunters that try to take the Falling Devil down. And she just demolished them, and eventually she makes like a stew, and she's like, yeah, I cooked up this delicious dish about consistent of their ears, tongues, and I can't wait for this dish to be served. We see that she's up to no good, and we see that she's cooking up this stuff, and we see that she's not alone. She sees, like, she's saying to us that I can't wait for the final dish to be served. And you see like this big caterpillar or larvae kind of thing. And this thing looks disgusting. It looks gross, but it made a awesome 2-page thread. So I thought that was awesome. And what we see is that pretty much she goes out and tells us, like, pretty much my last dish, the final dish will be serving Yoru and Asa, because I know they're a fusion. Like, it's a fusion between these two into a double. So she is definitely targeting them. Now we don't know why, but we obviously know now that there is a target, and she knows about Asa and Yoru being fused together. Now, what may her motive be, we don't know. But we do know that she knows about them too, and now it's actually targeting them. She's just not doing this for her own volition. She's doing it because she has a target, and that's them. But overall, I really enjoy this chapter, and I just can't wait to see where the story goes from here, because Fujimoto's setting up a lot, and I'm sure that everything he's setting up is going to be paid off masterfully, because that's how the kind of a writer Fujimoto is. But with that being said, what did you guys think about this week's chapter? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys thought it was all right? Whatever you guys thought, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Chainsaw Man anime and manga content in the near future. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.